Hey, Patriots Nation. We're back with another exclusive update on everything happening in New England. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you never miss any breaking Patriots news. The rumors started quietly, almost like a whisper in the corridors of the league, but within hours it had grown into something impossible to ignore. According to sources close to the locker room, Maye has reached a breaking point, and the message he allegedly delivered behind closed doors was nothing short of explosive. The young quarterback, still trying to establish his identity as the face of New England, is said to have drawn a hard line in the sand regarding a potential arrival that could completely reshape the hierarchy of the team. The phrase being repeated by insiders is dramatic, emotional, and raw, painting the picture of a player who feels cornered rather than empowered. In private conversations, the tone was not calm or diplomatic, but intense, filled with frustration built over weeks of uncertainty and internal debates. This is not about ego alone, according to those who heard the story unfold, but about trust, direction, and whether the organization truly believes in the quarterback it has been presenting as the future. When a player in that position feels the need to issue an ultimatum, it sends shockwaves far beyond the practice field. It forces teammates to take sides, coaches to reconsider plans, and executives to question whether their long-term vision is already cracking. The most striking part of this rumor is not the alleged words themselves, but the implication that a young leader feels so threatened by a single potential move that he is willing to consider walking away from everything he's been building. In New England, where stability has always been prized, this kind of internal tension feels unfamiliar and deeply unsettling. What makes this situation even more fascinating is the timing and the context surrounding Maye's alleged stance. The quarterback arrived with expectations that were heavy enough to bend steel, and from the very beginning, he was positioned as a cornerstone, not a temporary solution. Coaches spoke publicly about development, patience, and growth, while privately, according to league chatter, contingency plans were always being discussed. That duality is common in professional football, but becomes dangerous when the player at the center of it starts to sense doubt. The rumors suggest that Maye became increasingly uneasy as conversations about adding another significant presence under center grew louder. Even if framed as competition, mentorship, or insurance, the message received by the quarterback may have felt far more personal. Insiders claim he interpreted these discussions as a lack of faith, a sign that the franchise was already hedging its bets. In that emotional space, the alleged ultimatum begins to make more sense. From his perspective, allowing a certain name to enter the building could instantly undermine his authority in the huddle and his standing in the locker room. Quarterbacks thrive on clarity, and anything that blurs that clarity can be perceived as a threat. This rumor paints Maye not as reckless, but as protective of his role, his progress, and his belief that a team cannot fully commit to two different futures at the same time without damaging both. Inside the locker room, if the whispers are to be believed, the reaction has been mixed and quietly intense. Some teammates reportedly understand where Maye is coming from, seeing the ultimatum as a desperate attempt to protect continuity and leadership. They recognize that a quarterback constantly looking over his shoulder cannot perform freely, and that uncertainty at the most important position trickles down into every unit. Others, however, are said to feel uncomfortable with the idea of one player exerting that level of influence, especially someone still early in his professional journey. To them, football is about competition, and no one should fear another player entering the building if they truly believe in their own abilities. This divide, subtle but real, is what makes the rumors so compelling. It is not just about one potential signing or trade, but about the culture New England is trying to redefine. Veterans accustomed to a strict hierarchy may see the ultimatum as a challenge to organizational authority, while younger players might interpret it as a sign that the franchise quarterback is willing to fight for stability. Either way, the alleged statement has already done damage simply by existing, because it introduces doubt, tension, and speculation into an environment that thrives on routine and focus. Even if the words were never officially spoken, The belief that they might have been is enough to alter dynamics in ways that are difficult to reverse. From the front office perspective, this rumored ultimatum creates an almost impossible dilemma. On one hand, committing fully to Drake may aligns with the narrative they have been presenting to fans and media, a story of rebuilding around a young quarterback with immense potential. On the other hand, professional football is ruthless, and executives are paid to anticipate worst-case scenarios. Bringing in another proven or high-profile option could be viewed internally as smart risk management rather than a betrayal. The problem arises when that strategic mindset clashes directly with the emotional reality of the player. If the rumor is accurate, Maye's stance forces the organization to choose not just a player, but a philosophy. Do they double down on development and patience? Or do they prioritize immediate security at the cost of trust? Sources suggest that this internal debate has become far more urgent and personal since the alleged ultimatum surfaced. It is no longer an abstract discussion about depth charts, but a question of whether the franchise is willing to risk alienating the quarterback they have invested so much in. In New England, where long-term planning has historically been meticulous, being pushed into a corner by circumstances like this could lead to decisions driven more by damage control than by vision. That is what makes this rumor so volatile, because whichever path is chosen could define the next chapter of the franchise for years to come. The emotional weight carried by Drake, Maye in this narrative cannot be understated. According to those close to the situation, the quarterback feels that he has embraced the responsibility of leadership from the moment he arrived, studying relentlessly, building relationships, and trying to command respect without forcing it. The idea that his role could be diluted by the arrival of another major figure reportedly strikes him as deeply unfair. In his mind, the franchise asked him to grow, to learn through mistakes, and to represent a new era, all while knowing that development is rarely linear. If that patience evaporates at the first sign of turbulence, then what was the promise really worth? This rumored ultimatum, then, is framed by supporters as less of a threat and more of a plea for honesty. They argue that Maye simply wants clarity, a clear signal that he is either the guy or not. Living in a gray area, where public statements of confidence coexist with private contingency planning, can erode even the strongest mindset. Whether this perspective is shared by decision-makers is another matter entirely, but it adds depth to the rumor, transforming it from a dramatic headline into a human story about trust, fear, and ambition in one of the most unforgiving environments in sports. As the rumor continues to circulate, the fanbase has predictably split into camps, each interpreting the situation through their own lens of hope and frustration. Some fans see Drake Maye's alleged stance as a red flag, worrying that issuing ultimatums so early in a career signals insecurity rather than confidence. They fear that catering to such demands could set a dangerous precedent, one where players dictate terms instead of earning them through sustained excellence. Others rally fiercely behind the quarterback, arguing that the organization must finally commit to a long-term plan instead of perpetually searching for quick fixes. To them, Maye represents potential stability, and undermining that stability with mixed messages would only prolong uncertainty. This division amplifies the pressure on everyone involved because public perception has a way of seeping into private decision-making, especially in a market as passionate and demanding as New England. The rumor has transformed what could have been a routine personnel discussion into an emotional referendum on identity, loyalty, and direction. Even without official confirmation, the narrative has taken on a life of its own, shaping conversations on talk shows, social media, and within the walls of the facility itself. The second part of this unfolding speculation dives even deeper into what this ultimatum could mean if it truly reflects Drake Maye's mindset. Quarterbacks are often described as extensions of the coaching staff, leaders who must balance confidence with adaptability. When one reaches a point where he feels compelled to draw a line, it suggests a deeper fear of losing control over his narrative. In this case, the rumored arrival of another figure is seen not just as competition, but as a symbolic reset button, one that could erase months of progress in perception and authority. Sources claim that Maye worries about becoming a transitional piece rather than a foundational one, a fate that has derailed many promising careers. In a league where patience is rare, being labeled as uncertain can be more damaging than being labeled as flawed. This is why, according to the rumor, the quarterback chose such strong language. It was not meant for public consumption, but as a private declaration of boundaries. Whether that approach was wise is debatable, but it underscores how high the stakes feel from his perspective. This is not just about staying in New England, but about defining the trajectory of his career before external forces do it for him. If the organization chooses to test this ultimatum, the consequences could ripple far beyond a single decision. Allowing the rumored individual to enter the building despite Maye's stance would send a clear message about who ultimately holds power. It would reaffirm the franchise's authority, but risk fracturing the relationship with its young quarterback. Such a move could create a tense coexistence, one where every practice rep and sideline interaction is scrutinized for signs of favoritism or doubt. On the other hand, backing away from a move entirely could solidify trust with Maye while exposing the team to criticism for putting too much faith in an improving future. This balancing act is what makes the situation so precarious. There is no clean victory, only varying degrees of risk. According to insiders, these discussions are happening with an unusual level of urgency, precisely because the rumor has escalated expectations and fears on all sides. Decisions that might have been delayed are now being fast-tracked, and that kind of pressure rarely leads to optimal outcomes in a league built on calculated patience. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support helps us bring you the latest updates on the New England Patriots. And of course, drop your thoughts and comments. We love hearing from Patriots fans. The coaching staff, often caught in the middle of such power struggles, reportedly faces its own internal conflict. Coaches are tasked with developing players while also preparing to win under any circumstances. From that viewpoint, additional options at quarterback can be seen as tools rather than threats. However, maintaining the confidence of the starter is essential, especially when that starter is still growing into the role. The rumor suggests that some within the coaching ranks sympathize with Maye's position, understanding that constant uncertainty can stunt development. Others are said to prioritize flexibility above all else, believing that competition naturally brings out the best in players. This philosophical divide adds another layer of complexity to the situation. It is not simply a matter of one player versus management, but a clash of ideologies about how success is built. In New England, where systems and structure have historically outweighed individual preferences, this rumored ultimatum challenges long-held assumptions. It forces everyone to confront whether the old ways still apply in a new era defined by player empowerment and rapid turnover. Another intriguing element of this speculation is how it could influence future negotiations and relationships across the league. If Maye is perceived as a quarterback willing to draw hard lines, it could shape how other teams view him, either as a confident leader or as a potential risk. The same applies to the franchise, which could gain a reputation for either standing firm or bending under pressure. In professional football, reputations travel quickly, often influencing decisions long before formal talks begin. This is why the rumor carries weight beyond its immediate context. It is a case study in how power dynamics are evolving and how young quarterbacks are increasingly aware of their leverage. Whether this awareness translates into positive outcomes depends largely on communication and mutual respect, both of which appear strained in this narrative. The absence of clear, unified messaging has allowed speculation to flourish, filling the void with dramatic interpretations and worst-case scenarios. Ultimately, the alleged ultimatum from Maye represents more than a single moment of frustration. It symbolizes a crossroads for a franchise searching for identity and a quarterback fighting to secure his place within it. If the rumor is true, it exposes cracks that were already forming beneath the surface, cracks created by uncertainty, expectation, and the relentless pressure to get everything right. Even if the situation resolves quietly, without public fallout, the memory of this tension will linger, influencing how future decisions are made and how trust is rebuilt. In New England, where legacies are measured in sustained excellence, moments like this can become defining chapters rather than footnotes. The story is still unfolding, shaped as much by perception as by reality. And until clarity emerges, the speculation will continue to grow. One thing is certain within this rumor-driven narrative. When a quarterback feels compelled to say, if he comes, I leave, it signals a battle for belief, and battles like that are rarely forgotten. That's it for today's update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving fresh and exclusive Patriots news, make sure to subscribe and hit like. We always appreciate hearing your opinions in the comments. See you in the next one, Patriots Nation.